Good afternoon. I am Chris Sorchik. I'm the Executive Director with Capital Area Healthy Start Coalition. I want to thank you all for joining us today in our Lunch and Learn series. We do ask that if you are not speaking to please put yourself on mute so that we do not miss any of our speakers' comments today. So perinatal depression and mental health disorders are topics that we think of when we speak about a mom's mental health. More often than not, we overlook men when discussing these issues. Depression in dads is in fact a relatively common phenomenon affecting anywhere from 2% to 25% of them during their partner's pregnancy or in the first year postpartum. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, this rate can increase to 50% when a mother also has perinatal depression, and it can take a serious toll on the family's well-being. Research has shown that depression in fathers is associated with less attention to baby's health and well check visits, a higher risk in behavioral problems in preschool children, children with more physical and mental health problems, and poor family and marital relationships. In today's presentation, we will hear more on the topic of men's mental health. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to put those in the chat or raise your hand and we'll answer those as we go along. So I'd like you all to please join me in welcoming our presenter, Dr. Adam Baptiste. Dr. B is a family-oriented man, physician, researcher, educator, gardener, amongst many other roles. He aims to assist people in practical and meaningful ways, rooted in justice and equity. His interest in health is aimed at correcting disparities for the groups that experience them greatest, taking special regard to serve Indigenous, Aboriginal, Melanoid, rural, and underserved populations. Dr. B holds an entrepreneurial position as the chief executive of Balancing Being, a lifestyle company that offers a variety of services and products from acupuncture to academic advising and apparel. He is an educator working with Health Science Consulting and the Family Agency to train, inspire the next generation of health professionals and community workers. He is affiliated with Florida State University College of Medicine, employed as a researcher and coordinator for the Center of Behavioral Health Integration within the Department of Behavioral Sciences and Social Medicine. Much of his current work there is focused through initiatives to prioritize perinatal mental health and pediatric behavioral health. He aims to improve and include parental involvement and perspective in this work, ultimately working towards holistic mental behavioral health practices to be implemented for families. Through the Florida Maternal Mental Health Collaborative and the Florida BH Impact Program, Dr. B and the team he collaborates with aim to provide awareness and build the capacity of healthcare providers to address the critical gaps in the care of our nation's women, children, and their families. As the statewide coordinator of the Florida Maternal Mental Health Collaborative, he allies with stakeholders, patients, providers, and researchers to improve the context of perinatal mental health care. Dr. B is the key organizer for the state's only perinatal mental health conference that will be held in Tampa, Florida this year. Although focused on Florida, his efforts are for the work he engages to contribute to policy change, not only locally, but also at state, national, international levels. Welcome, Dr. B, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you all for being present today. I will start by sharing an affirmation that grounds and roots me as a man. I am that I am. I affirm and confirm that I am that I am. I'm Indigenous, I'm Aboriginal, and I am Melanoid. I am born given the name Adam Emil Baptiste, and I am consciously realized and self-connected as Atum Allah Maser Adam Bukman. I'm the fruit-bearing seed of powerful and infinite ancestral trees whose roots have fed and supplied me, nourished me with the miracle and opportunity of life. Oh, I accept that opportunity of living. I accept the responsibility of living. I accept the responsibility to be a man and claim my manhood. I accept this responsibility and respond with my full ability. I have the divine authority to heal myself, and I do so each day, emanating an aura of truth, justice, righteousness, reciprocity, harmony, order, and balance. Etepu, Shalom, Sanu, Alafia, Akwaba, welcome. Ancestors be with us. I greet you in the ancient spirit of peace. I speak with respect and gratitude as I acknowledge all of you whom have made time to share space with each other today. We acknowledge you and families that you represent, the long lines of mothers and fathers that precede you, and the long lines of mothers and fathers that will follow you. I speak an abundance of peace and productivity into your lives, into all the lives of those whom are present and those whom are connected to you. May you always find clean water to drink, nutritious food to feed your family with. May the elements of the earth, wind, fire, water, spirit, space, and time be in harmony within and around you. May you be able to continue growing and developing into who you are, into your most righteous and divine form as a human being whom practices discipline and practices the tenets of mind: truth, justice, righteousness, reciprocity, harmony, order, and balance. Dua Nache. Thank you all for being present today, and give yourselves a round of applause. I'm going to start sharing screen and we'll jump into our presentation. Today is a presentation about men's mental health and really being able to recognize what's going on, know what to do, and also be able to understand what are some of the common things that might be seen, okay? All right, so can you all see screen? All right, respect, thank you. In conversation with an elder, Neely Fuller Jr., I asked him once, what was the best thing that Black people can do to survive in America? And he shared this analogy: be paratrooper prepared. The way he said it was that all non-white people, especially Black people, should prepare themselves like a paratrooper. A paratrooper is somebody who is trained to jump out of an airplane behind enemy lines. This is somebody who's prepared to receive an attack in any direction, in any manner, at any time. This is a significant analogy because, especially living here in America, we see that there are dangerous pitfalls, especially for those whom are categorized as Black, around every corner. And when you're trained as a paratrooper, you prepare yourself with this mindset, you'll be ready to receive an attack in any direction at any time. So whether that attack is coming from your mother, your lover, your sister, your brother, or yourself, you would have prepared yourself to some degree to be ready for it, to shoulder it, and be able to move forward and make a decision about how to continue. This slide is a slide that reminds us that diversity comes in many forms. And there is a vastness when we're talking about quote unquote Blackness, or the melanoid, indigenous, aboriginal person and being. As a disclaimer, I have no conflicts of interest to share. The content in this presentation does not reflect the views of the institution that I'm employed by in any respect, nor do I own the images used in this presentation. I'm using it as fair use. There is some adult content, brief images of violence and nudity within the presentation, and may those whom have eyes to see and ears to hear find benefit and respect what is being shared in this presentation. The intention is to provide light and avenues towards healing and wellness. It's not to offend, trigger, or disrespect anyone. If you need to make space for yourself or move, feel free to do so. This is a lunch and learn, so I invite you to eat, drink, do what you gotta do. You're here sharing space and time. You're not offending anyone. As our host already has said, please just mind your mic. I will invite you all to share things in the chat, and I will invite you all to come off a mic and speak if your heart desires to do so. Whenever presenting, I think about being a listener and also an observer, and what I would want to hear or might need to see in order to become a better man, father, and overall human being. For the purpose of this presentation, we'll consider what it means to be Black as equated to melanoid, indigenous, aboriginal, Black, brown, colored, or non-white persons, those whom do not choose to be non-white. Being a Black man in this country requires a prodigious amount of mental and spiritual fortitude. Physical strength, though it's necessary, is not as important for survival here. To the brothers, speak to you whom are present in this moment and whom are not. Don't give up on your journey. Be kind to yourself. Stay hydrated, breathe deeply, and rest as necessary. As our brother Nipsey reminded us time and again, this race is a marathon. As our brother Malcolm reminded us, you can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has his freedom. Speak freely, share freely, because we are in a state of emergency. It is no time for you to be hesitant about what you're experiencing and what's going on. I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all some cliff notes real quick, because if somebody might tune out in the next minute or two, or they have another obligation to get to, if I didn't share anything else with you, remember to do this. Remember to breathe. Breathe deeply and fully. Remember to stretch. Stretch your body, feel your toes, feel your back, feel everything. Stretch your body and affirm yourself. Affirm that I am beautiful. Affirm that I am healthy, that I am well, even when you don't feel so. Think before you speak. Hold your tongue, especially when emotions are high and you're dealing with family members. Walk away so that you can come back, and let it be known that that's why you're walking away. Stay hydrated. Drink clean water, spring water preferably, but purified water at best. Bathe 2 to 4 times a month, meaning deep soak bathe, okay? I'm not just talking about your regular shower. I'm talking about submerging your body. Put your body into a bath if you can, at least 2 to 4 times a month. Grow your own food. Cannot overstate this enough. This is a magic that happens when you become intimate with your food again and you know where it comes from. Educate yourself about what's going on in the world, the real things, the things that are behind the veil. And have at least 2 people that you can speak with freely in your life that will not judge you for what comes out of your mouth, that will not hold it against you. And if this must be therapists or somebody that you have to pay, let it be them. But have at least 2 people in your life that you can speak completely candidly with. Okay, so that's the Cliff Notes version if you're gonna tune out. But please be kind to yourself, love yourself, preserve yourself, and be your best self. So on this slide, anybody notice anything different here? Something that sticks out or is not your average, not your normal? Anything in the chat? Or you can come off mute and say what that might be. Chat. Yes, self, C-E-L-L-F, right? So self is written this way because it's a way that I've used to remind myself of the collective mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual beingness that we have. There are many components to yourself. You're not one-dimensional. You have an ego, you have a subconscious, a superconscious, you have past, present, future selves. You have these different aspects of who you are. In the context of men, we're first brought into this world as someone's son. Then we move through these archetypes associated with being a male or being a man in relation to other human beings. We go through the son, the brother, the husband, the father, these different archetypes. Uncles and nephews are not to be forgotten. I remember becoming an uncle was my first taste of fatherhood, and it really motivated me to want to graduate and continue becoming the man that I am today. But how do we get here? How are you born? What are you made of? Any go ahead and type into the chat. How do we get here? What are the things that come together in order to make us, right? We're so much, yes, okay, I love love. I love love. Seeds, woo, powerful. That is powerful there. So that is a great place to start, because we're talking about sperm and egg as these different seeds that unify together. Your mother and your father come together and make who you are, but you're much more than just the material. You are the immaterial, quote unquote. You are spirit in motion as well. Speaking for most Black cultures, there's an existence of your being, there's an awareness of your existence and of your being before and after your physical body. We acknowledge it, and we acknowledge the spirit and the divinity that is in all things and exists even in that which we cannot sense, feel, and prove by measurement. For all people, it is critical that we do not deny that things in immaterial form can exist. It's like lying to ourselves if we do so. Does this make sense, what I'm saying? If not, let's do this example. You see in the middle of the screen, it says space and time. And written on the screen, you can see it, you can read it. If you can't see it, go ahead and think about space and time being written on a piece of paper in your mind. Now close your eyes and see it in your mind's eye. Now on the count of 3, say space and time loudly in your mind. 1, 2, 3. Now ask yourself the question, with what ears did you hear everyone or just yourself say space and time? With what eyes did you see and read space and time? See, that is the power that we have as human beings, to make the immaterial real, to share what is just a thought or just an idea. There's a space where that which is not, quote unquote, existing is still being, and it does exist. Our mind and our mentality is the beginning and end of our ability to access wellness for our mind, body, and spirit. If we or the adults that raise us are not intentional about showing us love, that was stated earlier, and support, if they don't help us to cultivate our developing mind, body, and spirit, we will be ill-equipped to manage most of life's circumstances and transition into adulthood. Everyone doesn't get to make it there. Everyone doesn't get to be called a man or a woman. You have to earn that. You have to cultivate that and actualize yourself as an adult. So usually I take this 3-part exercise, but we're going to expedite it today. In phase 1, you think about being in a space where everything you have, where everything you need is provided. You've got natural foods and clean water, it's safe, and there are cultural events that are cyclic that help root you to your culture and what you experience in life. You sit in this thought and you let it soak in and let your imagination roam and feeling comforted by your community. But in phase 2, you imagine that chaos ensues and your community is terrorized by a foreign people, annihilating your life as you knew it. You're now subject to this new reality where you can no longer have access to the natural abundance of the land, culture, and community that you come from. And you experience traumatic separation from those closest to you. Your wife, your children, your parents, your siblings, they're taken away from you. You have nothing that you can do about it. You suffer the consequence of not being able to protect those whom you cared for most. In phase 3, even after experiencing all of this trauma, you endure the most heinous crimes against history, against humanity committed in history. And in this process, you get subjected to an untold number of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual tortures. On the screen, there are some images of violent images. And the one in particular that always gets me pretty revved up is the one with the officer. That's a little girl that he's on top of. And it makes me, as a man, as a father, as an uncle, as a brother, it enrages me. It makes me want to do something about it. Now, when you as a man are not able to do something about it, it takes you to a place where you feel less than of yourself. And we're not here to relive these traumas. We're just here to identify them, to transform them, to heal from them. Because we're tired of the contemporary lynchings. We're tired of the public killings. We're tired of the homicidal police brutality. We're tired of the constant feeling of powerlessness, excuse me. And we have families that are constantly dealing with this day in and day out. We have to accept these traumas as if they haven't occurred, go right back to work as if we haven't been traumatized. But we've got to do something about it. The world over, a story nearly exact to the thought exercise we just ran through was the reality imposed on most Black people, men, women, and children. For millennia, these are people who existed in harmony and in balance with the earth. They cosmically oriented themselves, not just to the earth, but to the stars and the galaxies that exist, without the use of powerful telescopes. They understood their responsibility to maintaining the land that they inhabited. Within indigenous cultures, you'll find that we give respect to our dead or transitioned and yet to be born as if they're present at all times. The trauma enforced through the Ma'afa, or the Black Holocaust, it introduced and continues to manifest as an unprecedented, perverse, and deep-seated cancerous dysfunction into all families, communities, but especially Black ones. It's become a part of our story that we have to now reauthor and change. Black people should not feel shame when they say that they love Black people and they love Black families. You can come off mute if you want to. I invite you to, but I'd like you to say with me that I love Black men. Yes, you can say it in your mind. I love Black men. I love Black women. Yes.
I love Black men.
That's right. I love Black families. I love Black children.
Families.
Yes.
That's
Love the
right.
village.
That's right. That's right. We love the village. We have to be able to feel proud when we say these things. The part of society that has made these statements taboo, for whatever odd reason, is what leads to disparities that we Black people have to deal with incessantly. It's what leads to mental illness and to physical illness. Why is self-preservation so key to all people? It's because that's how we share ourselves. It's how we know ourselves over time and through time. One of the primary roles that men have been donned with is a duty to direct, protect, and provide for their families. When men sense underperforming in any of these areas, it becomes difficult to be around others or to look at yourself in the mirror. You feel like you've fallen short. When others sense it, most often, they either look down upon you or disrespect you for not performing. Some may try and look at you in pity or help and support you, but most often that's what happens. On the far right is an image of cells that again reminds us of why we spell self this way, because you as a human being are comprised of trillions upon trillions of cells. There are estimates that say there are over 700 trillion cells in the human body, and only 15 to 30 trillion of those being actual human being cells. The rest being the bacteria, the fungi, all of these other cells that are hitching a ride, playing a role in your digestion, being a part of your human being and body, which is essential to you being. So this is a reminder of when you are feeding yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, that you are feeding these cells as well. So sometimes, yes, McDonald's it tastes good, but it's not cell food. Things of that nature. This is just a moment to remind you. Feed yourself wholly and fully. What is support? You can go ahead and chat your examples into the chat box, or if you want to come off of mute, you can speak as well. But what is support? What are your ideas of support? For the purpose of this presentation, we'll look at this as acknowledgement coupled with assistance. Okay, we'll think about how someone can be acknowledged as well as assisted, right, to support them. What is love? You can chat your ideas about what love is. And for love unconditional, yes. For the purpose of this presentation, we'll again look at it as self-preservation too, because we know that when you love yourself, when you love those extensions of yourself, you will protect them at all costs. Yes, demonstration of care, intimacy. Thank you for sharing. You can also freedom. You can also type your responses in the chat about these questions. What is or who is a male? Who and what makes a man? Who and what makes a father? A baba. See, baba is a term that is used throughout the globe to identify with a father figure, a responsible, nurturing, wise, protective father figure, whom respects his position in the community as a familiar father figure. Many cultures use the term, but here we're using it to regard the historical example given by Black, Indigenous, Aboriginal fathers. So if you see that term, that's what we're talking about. Yes, a protector, Ashe, a dedicated and dependable man, Ashe. Keep them coming, keep them coming. How do Black men utilize mental health services? There's only 26.4% of Black men ages 18 to 44 who experience daily feelings of anxiety and depression that are likely to have used mental health services. That's about 1 in 4, a quarter, right? Because society enforces the idea that men must neglect their emotional and mental well-being to be considered manly, many Black men suffer in silence. Or worse, statistics will show that Black men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than Black women, dying without receiving the care they deserved or needed. Many acts of violence stem from emotional immaturity or being emotionally overwhelmed. There was a program in Michigan, the Man Up, Man Down research program, and that initiative explores the physical and emotional health of the so-called African American man. It learned about the quote unquote tough guy syndrome, or TGS, through 25 focus groups in 6 cities. And they did this between 2010 and 2018. And everywhere that they asked participants, hey, what does it mean to be a real man? Although certainly there's no one way to be a man, they found that the phrase was a good way to begin discussing notions of manhood. And the research showed that most men, African American men, think that being a real man means providing for your family, achieving the respect of others, and attaining financial success. They also found that it means being tough and self-sufficient, not needing anyone for anything. That many of these men embrace tough guy syndrome as a source of self-esteem and self-respect. This may particularly be the case in these men when they feel that they've been given a terribly raw deal in terms of quality education, socioeconomic opportunities, and racial discrimination. We just learn to deal with it. When it comes to describing depression, you can see on the screen some of the quotes. See, Black folk have normalized in the abnormal. Most of us deal with depression, anxiety, and overbearing stress daily, every day. Men may or may not cry, but more so feel frustrated and angry whenever they're dealing with depression. Confused, or the fancy term anhedonic, right? Meaning without any kind of emotion. They just kind of plug out, disassociate. Depression, it can manifest itself in terms of irritability and impulsivity. They can come off as short or distant, but they're just less likely to feel positive about what's going on in life. They're more likely to spank their children. They're more likely not to play games or entertain their family or conversations. It places especially the children at significant risk for developmental delays when father's depressed. Depressed fathers are more likely to engage in substance abuse, domestic violence. They're more likely to discourage their partner in being positive about things in their life, or especially around the time of a new baby, maybe discourage them from breastfeeding or being a positive role model. On the screen, we got some things from the Why Be Men Project, as well as an awesome graphic that Alpha Phi Alpha and Henry helped put together to help us remind ourselves of the 5 stresses for Black men and also 6 signs for depression in Black men. These are not all inclusive. We can't cover it all in this session today or in this simple graphic, but these are things that help us stay corralled and more focused when we're trying to do something about it. What ends up happening for most Black males is that we start to internalize the pain that we felt that has most often stemmed from intergenerational trauma. It ain't even our own. It's not even our own pain, but we're feeling it because of the interactions that we have with the people who did not heal from the trauma that they experienced and that they got passed down, right? So these experiences that we have to deal with lend to and start to manifest new adverse childhood experiences that we then have to, these different layers start to pile up, and we have to keep trying to heal from these spaces and places. So in a summation, most Black men get stressed out and feel depressed about financial issues, custody and family issues, relationship trauma and problems, underemployment or unemployment. These are the main things that stress Black men out. And it's something that we've got to help them through and recognize that when he's acting out, it's not just because, right? There are usually triggers and reasons for this. Other risk factors, especially for fathers that are in the perinatal space, are if mom is depressed, you have a 50% chance of being depressed, okay? And that's even higher, especially for Black men. Because when mom is depressed, but the statistics are saying that it's 1 in 4 for 1 in 4 women in general will experience perinatal mood and anxiety disorders or depression. It's 2 to 3 times that in Black women, okay? That means it's 2 to 3 times in Black men as well, if it's a 50-50, if your partner is depressed. So other things that put you at risk are just not having good male role models, having the social supports that are necessary. That's a huge part of being able to navigate your mental health in the terrain of how you feel as a human being. Is, do you have support, especially if you have support or lack support from family and friends? These are some graphics that help illustrate what's going on in terms of the prison industrial complex as well as in education. And when we look to the left, you can see that Black men face a much higher chance of being incarcerated. And the statistics is mind-blowing. Look at all the bars. The blue and the green are what you're comparing. And the blue shows the portion of people that are sentenced to state and federal prisons, separated out by demographics of Black men, white men, Black women, and white men. Black men are the only ones that have a higher blue bar than others, all right? And that bar is showing our higher chance of being incarcerated is astronomical, okay? We're talking about 32% versus 6% of the population, okay? This is a huge percentage and it's terribly skewed out of proportion. It's what feeds into that idea that Black men are criminal. Black men deserve to be treated as less than because we're more incarcerated. We're making up the predominant population in the prison. Over to the right, you can see that Black men are underperforming everyone when it comes to levels of attainment in education, okay? So these statistics help highlight some of the things that Black men are going through socially and in education as well. Men do not have to be biological fathers to children in order to express fatherhood. Choosing fatherhood means you choose to be responsible and exemplary. This is what the world needs from all men, but especially from Black men, so that we can see improvements amongst the Black family. This is a slide showing that dads say that they want to do better and they want to be parents. They want to be a father. It's not the social norm or thinking. We often think that men prefer to be outside, or they think that taking care of children are womanly duties, but men want to be involved in the rearing of children and taking care of their children. To become a father requires that you transition through childhood and into manhood, neither of which exists without womanhood and familyhood. Men are forged by the collective fires of man, woman, and childhood. This is familyhood. Promoting responsible fatherhood is more important now than ever. The world is demanding for a positive change, and Black fathers must be at the helm. Some very influential people on the screen, and they've been instrumental to helping so many come to learn and know themselves. We have Mama Betty Shabazz, Alhaj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X. We have their children, as well as Muhammad Ali on the screen. And cultural connectedness and mental liberation is the key. An essential job is that cultures should perform is to teach people the knowledge of themselves. When parents teach, practice, and transmit their culture to their children, they develop the knowledge of whom they are, what they have been, and what they can become. This is transferred through family, educational structures, culture, symbols, spiritual systems. This is what the people can offer to their children. How often are Black children taught that they are the originators of culture, science, morality, that they are powerful, valuable, and dignified people? Passing the torch of fatherhood is done through generations. Sometimes it may skip a generation of direct transmission due to a myriad of reasons, some we've already touched on. But it's the responsibility of men to make men. And it's a responsibility that requires maintenance, accountability, and sincere effort. We need men to be the jelly or the griot, the storyteller of their families. Cross-cultural studies of manhood indicate that what it means to be a man in a particular culture is derived from recurrent and ongoing problems of the living in that culture that they're faced by, and the modes of production, the social activities, and the relations perceived as vital for maintaining its integrity, and the cohesion and the demands placed on its well-being by the external factors and/or groups. The methods by which boys are trained for manhood, the values extolled as masculine, and the cognitive behavioral characteristics expected of a man are intimately related to the problems that we just mentioned. Your physical health affects family's health, my dear brother. As does your mental health, as does your spiritual health. Be holistic in your healing. But healing yourself, it can and will heal your family. Studies have shown that your health affects the outcome of your babies before they're conceived. So be mindful, be intentional about protecting your family through how you protect yourself and how you heal yourself. Oh boy, the role of racism and how it affects our parents and babies. This is a big deal that we have to deal with. And there's a statement that I say is in the center of the screen. It says, living steady state in an acute stress disorder. Okay. We as Black people are constantly getting hit with new stressors, and you learn to live in that steady state of acute stress. This is what we call weathering, right? This is where you get into the norm of feeling stressed out and feeling like, okay, well, it's just normal for me to be lacking social support. It's normal for me to be constantly discriminated. It's normal for me to be without what I need. This is not normal. And it's something that we have to learn how to reverse and change, because it leads to these terrible outcomes and disparities that we've been experiencing as a collective. When fathers are involved in a child's life and in the family's life, you can see that children become exponentially greater. Evidence displays and demonstrates that fathers, they play a critical role in a child's health and development, beginning in the prenatal period before they're even born and continuing long into their adulthood. Fathers spend a much higher percentage of their one-on-one time interacting with infants and preschoolers and stimulating playful activities than mothers do. From these types of interactions, children will learn how to regulate their feelings and behaviors. Roughhousing with dad, for example, can teach a child how to deal with aggressive impulses and physical contact without losing control of their emotions. Caring, involved fathers are able to be found within the context of marriage. However, they can also be found outside that context of marriage. Black fathers are known to be the greatest group of unmarried fathers who spend time with their children and see about their children. How you as a man can help your family is to be present and involved. There's a lot of things that go into ensuring that a family is functioning. You got to spend time your family needs administration time, okay? You got to have social time. You got to have routines and rituals. Men folk, you got to put your energy into contributing around these things. Running a family operations meeting on a weekly basis is a great way to spend your time, your energy, and show your family, especially your partner, that you care and that you're willing to help and willing to do what is necessary to make your family function properly. These types of meetings, make sure at these meetings you implant and always protect your self-care time for both partners. Always make sure that you have individual time where you can be who you are. If that just means laying outside, laying inside, doing what you want to do, going shopping, whatever it is, that is your self-time. Build it in to your weekly operations and weekly meeting. When you're involved, you can change the world, brothers. So please get involved. We'll take a quick moment to ground ourselves because, as I said earlier, we gave you the Cliff Notes version. First thing I said was breathe, okay? Your breath is a divine, righteous way to channel yourself and ground yourself. So a practice that we do is this breathing and breathing in. When you breathe in through your nose, filling up your lungs and making it feel overflowed, holding it at the top, and then relaxing and slowly breathing out, exhaling all the way, tightening the chest, and breathing back in fully. Conscious breathing is a way to ground yourself. It's a way to minimize the stress that you're feeling. And if you do this intentionally, especially in this moment right now, you'll be able to feel your heart rate slow. You'll be able to feel your mind clear. You'll be able to feel your body calm down. So remember to be intentional with your breathing. Remember to address and heal from your trauma. This takes time. It's not done in one session. There's no magic pill. You've got to be forward in addressing your trauma, because unintended traumas can perpetuate more trauma and abuse. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be correct. It's okay to express your emotions and to cry. Learn to have a conversation where you're not dominating the conversation. Learn to be able to speak freely and to listen freely. Offer yourself positivity. Trust that you are all that you need. Brothers, when you're thinking about what can be done, I'm gonna tell you 5 a.m. is a sacred time for men folk. It's before everybody gets up, all right? Get up, do your affirmations, do your prayer, do your workout, do your routines that once the day starts going, you don't have time for. Learn to be an early riser, because he who rises in the morning, who meditates and thinks deeply, is capable of being able to do in his reality, do the things that he thinks about and bring them from the immaterial to the material. Plan and think in terms of 2 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years from now. You've got to plan ahead. You can't just plan for the moment. You've got to plan ahead. You've got to plan generations from now. 2 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. If you're not thinking like this, you're not truly thinking as a man who loves himself and loves his family and thinks about generations from now, what will go on. Join a brotherhood or men's group. This is probably most important, to be around other men who are going to hold you accountable and help you calibrate what is correct and what is incorrect. Don't get into negative pity parties or be in groups that don't encourage you to think about how you're addressing your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual fitness. Those are the types of support groups that you need to be a part of. Shout out to the Wellness Warriors, the Man Heal Thyself Wellness Warriors. Y'all know who you are, and the world knows who you are. We're here. Programs to look out for if you're developing your health and well-being. You want to make sure that they also think about how you're interacting with your children, how your relationship is, your co-parenting skills, how to develop you vocationally and your educational skill sets. Make sure that you make time for yourself. I can't stress that enough. There's a difference between rest and sleep. Don't just run until you fall out, right? You've got to be able to know what the difference is between rest and sleep, and when you take your rest and when you take your sleep. There's so much more here, but I want to make sure we get to a space where we can have some time for questions and comments. But to support Black men, as we said, make sure you find other men for them to connect with. Listen to them, learn to heed their nonverbal communication, because men speak volumes in what they do not say. Show them support, which we said was acknowledgement and assistance. Help them to find ways to express their creativity and validate their feelings and experiences. On the screen, there are some resources, some research and references. You can also link me. I've had some resources throughout the presentation that you can definitely share. Also do my best to share this PowerPoint so that you have access to it. This recording should have somewhere where it lives indefinitely. So shout out to all of you who are getting it after this moment in time. You're right on time. We love you. We respect you. Become your best self. Love thyself and love thy family. Respect.
Dr. B, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Love to open it up for any questions or comments. Feel free to come off mute or raise your hand.
Oh, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
This is amazing, and it is very needful. I know it's needful everywhere, but especially in our county, Gadsden County, it's really needed. And it's been hard trying to, pull men together and get them in a seminar or something where they can get some guidance. So what would be in way that we can reach out to the men? And I know we have the brother to brother here, which is great.
Center for Health Equity.
And so we trying to get that information out and cry loud so these men, and I think a lot of them just don't know. And if you haven't been in that environment where you are taught how to, interact with your spouse as a man, then what do you, because you can only give what you have. So what are some means that we can bring about in our county that we can reach out to the men?
Yes, I really appreciate your sentiment. Shout out to everyone pouring into the chat. Thank you. One of the things that I know about men folk is that we prefer the informal to the formal. We prefer things more so on the fly. We prefer to just be quote unquote kicking it, right? Link up in a round table sort of way and digest information or chop it up, quote unquote. When it comes to how to get them information, I think giving men folk information that they can digest on their own time and in their own terms is one of the primary ways to engage them. You want to give them something like, this is something, hey, check this out. There's a brother that I feel like you might benefit listening to, or just hear some of the information there. Find other men folk or find books, gift them a book to read. Because one of the things that we've fallen out of as a culture, as a people, is we don't read books as much anymore, right? Hence why we got this bookshelf here as a reminder. Read books. This is something that it's very different than just listening to videos, reading Instagram and reading web articles and things of that nature. You've got to read. It changes how you are as a human being. And I also think that, again, finding ways to encourage men being with other men, right? So organize, hey, you want to invite your friends over and have them in an environment where they're in a home space. They're not just going out to the bar and doing things that the bar does, right? Have them in a home environment where you can set the tone, or you can share film with them, with things that help to corral the energy and the mind around improving themselves as a man and a human being. One of the most powerful things that we men folk experience are women who charge us to become men. There's nothing greater than that. When a mother, a wife, a sister, an auntie, a cousin, a daughter, a niece, when you charge us to be a man and to love you, to respect you, when you want us and you support us and you encourage us, that motivates us to do better. So that support is truly a gem in itself.
Dr. B, can you unpack what that looks like for us to charge a man to be a man? What does that look like in community?
Absolutely. So for one, it entails being truthful. So let us know when we hurt your feelings. Make sure that we're clear about when we're stepping out of line, right? Sometimes it will be sheltered and it won't be told, or it will be just allowed to happen. When you do that, you don't allow us the moment to recognize, oh, we did something incorrect, or we did something that really did not contribute to you being in your best form. Another thing is, as we were sharing with like the family meeting, there are ways that when you're in a partnership with a man, if you charge him to say, hey, we need to have a meeting and these are the things that we need to address at the meeting, helping him to structure that, because he may have never had to take care of a family before. And so women have a more innate sense of family nurturing and what comes next, right? Helping a man to develop that is what helps him to become the full man that he can be. You, as a woman, are still nurturing men in their adulthood. And the same, it comes back to you, because when you nurture that man will then nurture you. That helps shed some light.
Thank you. Perfect.
Okay.
I'd like to say something.
Yes, please.
I'm just wondering how a conversation like that would look for someone like myself, a non-Black person, to be able to speak to a family or a Black male about his involvement with his children, because I work with Miss Isabella here at the Center for Health Equity, and we see it all the time where dad is just not involved, and we know how great it is to have dad's involvement, even just reading to the child, 3 days out of the week, how much of an impact that has on them. But just, not just as a woman bringing it up to a man, but as a woman who is Latina and non-Black, how would I talk about that?
Truth. Being genuine, there's nothing that supersedes that. So if you just come from a genuine space, you don't have to feel the pretense of Blackness and non-Blackness, or whiteness and non-whiteness. Just be truthful and speak to him about his fatherhood and his ability and the power that he has to be present as a man and as a father. That will help him to then put that into context for himself and for his family. So be free in your speech and be truthful in your speech, and that will have the great impact that you're looking for. So I put the confidence into you. That's what I did.
Well, then I'd like to say something else.
Go ahead, come on.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I guess just going through this presentation, and I don't know if anybody else has maybe this feeling, maybe it's just me, I don't know. Also looking within myself, because all the ladies that I work with know that, I don't hate men, but I just see, I guess, even in my personal life, I don't even know what I'm trying to say here, but just tuning in right now to my bias, I guess. And of course, not just on Black men, on men in general. Mm-hmm. And I guess being careful with not bringing those things up in a conversation. So I love this presentation because I'm able to look within myself and know that maybe that genuineness might not be there. I don't know. I don't know, but I love this presentation, and I love that you were able to allow me to look at that within myself.
Yes, and I thank you for having the confidence to share your sentiments and to speak. Um, I can guarantee you're not the only person that feels that way. And so, if I can try my best to kind of wrap around what it is that you may be expressing, is that there's a need for you to help address some of the trauma that you've experienced in your life associated with menfolk, and some of the ways that may conflict your future experiences with other menfolk, right? It complicates or convolutes or it clouds your ability to really look at this person as a human being and not just as the pretext of a man first, because we're talking about human to human being able to relate to each other and understand that there are these archetypes for each one of us that are existing in a male and female form to choose these different sets of being an auntie, an uncle, to being a man and a woman, to being a mother and a father. And when we nurture those different archetypes and we embody those different archetypes, there's great works that can be done in those spaces. If we understand them fully, then we can really transform not just our lives, but the lives of those people that we're also involved with. So I respect that quote unquote hesitance that exists there for you, or that feeling like maybe I'm not really feeling genuine and wanting the best for this person, or speaking from a space of true healing and wellness. If you understand that, but you know what is best in the moment is for someone to do that, then punt it to somebody else and allow somebody else to be instead of you, if it's something that's not coming from that space. And again, it's okay to feel the way that you feel. Nobody is penalizing you for that. So again, I appreciate and thank you for being able to speak.
Alma had a question. She said, great presentation. Thank you, Dr. B. How can we get past the uncomfortableness of hearing about things that have traumatized people of color and continue to have this kind of conversation?
Continuing to deal with it. And by deal with it, I'm talking about managing how you feel, and how you experience these different traumas. One of the main things to do is to limit how much you digest, right? We have this age of information that we're dealing with, and we get these triggers bombard us all the time. So commercials here, news there, Instagram here, Facebook there. There's this constant reminder of the traumas going on. And so we have to limit that by turning it off. That way, instead of coming from a place of being triggered, we can take our time to sit with what we've been triggered by already instead of getting triggered again. And when we sit with ourselves and we're able to sit with the ideas and the notions of what's going on, start to analyze, well, what is the actual feeling that I'm feeling? Am I feeling pain? Am I feeling anxiety? Am I feeling helplessness? Like really start to digest how you feel. And that comes through sitting with yourself through meditation. And if you don't have those tools yet, you develop those tools. You develop those tools, especially by working with people who have those tools, right? So seek out people that you feel comfortable speaking with, seek out therapists, seek out people who can help you to digest that information so that it's not just you being subject to the information, but you actually reasoning around what's going on and understanding that you have a power to control your emotions or to manage your emotions, right?
Beautiful. And then Rocio asks, not all men are open to therapy or having conversations about their feelings with their partners. Any suggestions on how you can communicate with men that are not there yet?
Yes, for sure. Again, support. the more that you give a man support and love in the form of support and in the form of encouragement, it's like feeding, it's like fertilizer to a soil. So sometimes you have this seed in the ground and you're like, well, when is this thing going to spring up? When is it going to come up? And you just keep watering it, you just keep giving it food, but it ain't come up yet, right? And I'm likening that to the man who is not ready to shine yet. He's not ready to embrace his emotional sense or his sensual self yet. There are fears from most men dealing with their emotions and with this type of sensual space, right? So men have to learn to embrace that. I would share texts with them, books. This is a great book, Man, Heal Thyself. Okay. This is written by Supernova Islam and Queen Mother Afua. And there are many other texts that we can get to. We got texts like A Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman, The Community of Self by Baba Naeem Akbar. That's a great one because it's more like a handout or a quick synopsis of what to do or how to view what's going on with your sense of self. You can take them to healing events, things like a walk in the park, do things that help them to calm down and not feel so stressed out. Go to yoga class, and there's a brother here, local elder, that I would always promote is Dr. Dana Denard, Baba Kamal. He is awesome and excellent to help men folk to kind of break that shell. Miss Anna L. Woods is on the call now, who specializes in loss and grief. And so sometimes what we're dealing with as men folk is actually loss and grief that we have not yet touched. We haven't even thought about is something that is bothering us or stopping us. Another text is Heart on Break. This is a great text from Brother Nakata, who is helping men to understand how to heal themselves from relationships or from how to take a break from relationships so that they can develop themselves as a man. Some men are constantly caught in the undertow of dealing with family, dealing with their relationships, dealing with work, and never work on themselves. This is what we have to learn to help them understand is you have the authority and the right to work on you and nothing else. Heal thyself, love thy family.
Beautiful. There's no more questions, but a lot of compliments.
Love and respect. Thank you all so much. We appreciate y'all being present. And definitely shout out to the men folk. I know even though you ain't in the room, you're still here. You're still here in spirit. And we look forward to meeting you in the future. We look forward to you realizing your best form and your best self. Heal yourself so that you can heal your family. We as people have the responsibility to really love ourselves so that we can heal ourselves, heal our families, and heal the world.
Thank you, Dr. B.
Oh, you're so welcome. Respect.
I want to thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate you making space for this conversation. Dr. B, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm sure I'll be in touch for future conversation because I think that there's a lot more that we can talk about. So as Dr. B said, this recording will be made available to everyone. Simone will send out a link to the recording along with information on our next Lunch and Learn. I hope you all have a fabulous weekend and take care. We'll talk soon.
Love and respect, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.